Today's episode was sponsored by Nos over on Patreon. I actually made your patch last night, and then I woke up this morning and I was like, why did I write sun? But then I realized that if you flip it over, Nos. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this guy up on the wall. Yeah. So yeah, here it is, up on the wall. Hopefully in frame. I really need to learn how to frame a shot. I asked Nos if he had any special shout-outs he wanted me to give, and he did for his wife. And it's very sweet, so let me read it so I don't mess it up. Congratulations to my beautiful wife for having finished a long and challenging training. You are an incredible doctor, and I can't wait to see how you continue to thrive. An amazing career awaits you. Your patients are so lucky to have you. Te amo. And just to be clear, that is Nos saying te amo, nos te ama, no te amo. I mean, I guess es posible que pueda amarte, pero no te conozco. How am I awkward in multiple languages? Seriously though, thank you so much to Nos and his wife for sponsoring this episode, and everyone give their congrats to her in the comments below because it sounds like she earned them. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start the episode. I'm not gonna lie, I've been kind of down on myself recently. And before anyone goes and tries to support me in the comments, know that that's not necessary. I'm not that down. I'm not crying myself to sleep every night or anything like that. I'm fine, but I also feel a little like, I think that's just what happens when you make stuff. It causes you to look at yourself more, and when you do that, it's hard not to find things that you wish were maybe a little bit different. I feel like my last few videos have been fine. Not terrible, but not quite as good as I hoped they'd be in my head. My audio's still not great, my writing can be very heavy-handed at times, and my delivery is... Well, a lot of you guys say that you like it, and I choose to believe you. More than anything, though, I feel like my views have been stagnating a little bit recently. A couple of my videos have hit here and there, but most of them get about the same amount of clicks, and that amount has not grown for a while now. And it's weird because my views are higher than I ever would have dreamed possible a few years ago, but they've also been so consistent for so long now that it's hard not to feel like I've plateaued on some level. Sometimes I look at my stats and think like, have I just found all the people in the world who might possibly like me? And that doesn't feel great because, I don't know, when you think about how many people there are in the world, it's not that many. So then I start to wonder why more viewers aren't interested. Is it my poor audio, my heavy-handed writing, my weird delivery, or do I just generally suck as a person? Again, I'm fine. And like, obviously, I know that this is all in my head on some level. My views aren't a reflection of me. But that said, it does feel like they are sometimes, and because of that, I do want to do my best to see them grow a little bit. And with that in mind, I decided to go back to my roots by doing the thing that is responsible for most of my channel's growth. talking about trashy reality television from over a decade ago. And to give myself the best shot at success, I decided to pull out the big guns by talking about the single trashiest TV show that I've ever seen in my life. It's called High Society, and for the longest time, I kind of thought that I had dreamed it because, well, for one thing, it does feel like a fever dream, and for another, as far as I know, my friends and I were the only people who watched it. It stars Tinsley Mortimer, who most of you probably know from her time on The Real Housewives of New York, although that was a very different Tinsley from the one we're getting here. I wouldn't really describe the Tinsley we saw on Housewives as aspirational. I think that if you were to ask me to describe her character on the show in one scene, it would probably be the time she went wedding dress shopping despite not being engaged, and then while wearing a wedding dress, she decided to do a Skype call with the eggs she had frozen.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's like my baby.
I don't know that things were going well for her at that particular juncture in her life. On High Society, though, Tinsley is meant to be the absolute queen bee. A fabulous New York socialite whose name is on everybody's lips. She's the real-world version of whatever Blake Lively's character in Gossip Girl's name was. Debbie, maybe. And honestly, this characterization makes sense, because I think that is who Tinsley was at the time. I actually do remember her being kind of a thing. I feel like they were trying to position her as the East Coast version of Paris Hilton. She was apparently a staple of Page Six, and I think this show was an attempt to introduce her to a wider audience. The goal here seems to be to show off how cool her life is, so we get a lot of shots of her on red carpets and see her hobnob with her fabulous celebrity friends.
The event we're going to is for Georgina Chapman, who is one of the designers of Marchesa. Hi. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know. I love Harvey Weinstein. He's great. He is married to Georgina Chapman. Harvey is one of the most famous movie producers in the world.
And believe it or not, that's not even in the top 10 worst aged moments of this series. So, yeah, buckle up. Still, though that was obviously regrettable in hindsight, it's hard to deny that in 2010, being friends with Harvey Weinstein was a bit of a flex, and that's because she was genuinely a big deal. And weirdly, I kind of think that's the biggest problem with the show. When it was made, Tinsley was at this weird level of famous where she wasn't so big that she'd be above signing up for a reality show about her amazing social life, but she was big enough that none of the people she actually socialized with would ever in a million years agree to be on it. So to make up for that, it seems like they kind of just found a bunch of people who were vaguely in Tinsley's orbit to fill out the cast, but like, I only say that they're in her orbit because it seems like she had a pretty big orbit back then. I feel like if Tinsley is the sun, then everyone else on this show is Pluto. They're circling her, but they ain't exactly close. I would be genuinely shocked if Tinsley could remember a single one of her co-stars' names without reading it off of the script they give her to do voiceovers. And I think that some of this may have been intentional. I definitely get the sense that one of the goals of the show was to make her feel like the clear star in order to help her build her brand. Honestly, there are times when I suspect that the only reason she agreed to make this thing was to promote her business, because we hear a lot of talk about a handbag line she's producing. Although, frankly, after 8 episodes, I'm still not entirely clear what role she plays in their production. I think the closest we get to an explanation comes from Tinsley's sister, Dabney.
What we do is Tinsley and I go to the factory in New York, we get the samples made for the bags, and then they make tons of them and sell them in all of their stores.
So yeah, that clears that up. Handbag production is very much not what this show is about, though. It is extremely messy and full of drama. Tinsley's just removed from it all. And given that she's the star of the show, that does feel kind of weird sometimes. The only person in the cast that Tinsley interacts with that she's not related to by blood is someone named Alex, but like, I'm using the phrase "in the cast" very loosely there. If we're being honest, the only reason I even remember she exists is because her name is in the opening credits, but outside of that, she doesn't really do much. She's mostly just there to be a sounding board for Tinsley, and off the top of my head, the only thing interesting I can think of that she's involved in is that she gets a drink thrown on her face. But I don't think that really counts as something she did because it was meant for someone else. So, the person Tinsley talks to the most over the course of the show is her mother, Dale, who is also in the opening credits, despite the fact that she is solidly 30 years older than everyone else in the cast. And Dale is without question my favorite character on the show. She's this very proper Southern woman who insists on making herself a part of every facet of her daughter's life. She's kind of like if Amy Poehler's character in Mean Girls had a membership to Mar-a-Lago. And I don't want to say that Dale is a bad mother because I really don't think that she is, but watching her on this show, it does not take long to understand how Tinsley eventually ends up here.
It's like my baby.
I guess if Tinsley does have a storyline, it's that she's currently going through a divorce. She first gained notoriety by marrying some dude named Topper, who's the grandson of the president of Standard Oil, but sometime before the first episode, the two of them split up. And rather than, being there for her daughter, Dale kind of just spends her time making Tinsley feel bad about that.
God, how did it get this far? Like, this really is happening, like we're really fighting from each other and getting a divorce.
She's making a terrible mistake in her life, and she's risking her reputation.
We first meet Dale when she comes to visit Tinsley's new apartment, and well, let's just say that she's not a fan.
The first time I saw Tinsley's new neighborhood, which is in the Midtown, all I could think is, what are you thinking?
It is very funny that they're piping those police sirens in like Tinsley is in the slums, because this is easily a $2 million property. That said, I am going to have to go with Dale on this one. Midtown does suck. And yeah, Dale does not hold back when it comes to hurling insults at her daughter's post-divorce life. When she first sees Tinsley's new home, her main criticism is this.
Hi.
Well,
Yeah, so
it's different. The apartment, it was empty.
But then when Tinsley says that actually her furniture is on the way, she takes issue with that too.
The furniture from the other place is all coming here.
You're not taking all of it.
Mom, that's my furniture. I bought that stuff.
Honey, you're gonna clean him out.
He has the apartment.
And just in case that weren't bad enough, earlier in this scene, she complains about having decorated Tinsley's old apartment. So presumably, she wanted her to keep that furniture.
I do not get how she left her wonderful apartment on the Upper East Side, which I had just decorated.
Right now, some of you may be thinking that Dale is contradicting herself a little bit, but I actually do believe that everything I just showed you is consistent with her ultimate thesis, which is that anything Tinsley does is wrong if she's doing it while divorced from her ex. I very much get the sense that Dale wants to see Tinsley and Topper back together, and that she's going to do everything she can to see that they do get back together. And the reason that I think that is because she says it.
If it were up to me, I would like them to get back together. And I might add, I'm going to do everything I can to see that they do get back together.
And when she says everything she can, she means it. I have never seen someone meddle in their child's life more actively than Dale Mercer. In what is perhaps my favorite sequence of the entire series, she literally does reconnaissance on her daughter's current boyfriend in an effort to sabotage their relationship. After her split from Topper, Tinsley starts dating a German prince named Casimir, and naturally, Dale suspects that he may be a Nazi, so she decides to do a little research.
My daughter Tinsley is dating a German prince. It is tragic. It is tragic. I know that the German people are lovely people, but let's face it, their history, it's not good.
Hi there. I was looking for information on a German family.
I knew that there would be a lot written about his family, so I just thought maybe I should do a little reading and research it a little bit.
I think what I love the most about this part is that the fact that she goes to the library suggests to me that she does not know how to use the internet. The show came out in 2010. Also, normally I would be on the side of anyone who was doing their best to ensure that their daughter isn't dating a Nazi, but the way that Dale is going about it does feel a bit off to me. Like, I almost get the sense that the reason she's worried Casimir may be a Nazi isn't because, well, Nazis are bad. I kind of think the only thing she cares about is what other people might think.
Tinsley's wonderful heritage, colliding with this background, and it's frightening to me. I mean, it's almost apocalyptic.
I guess there's really no wrong way to oppose Nazism, but doing it because you're trying to preserve your daughter's wonderful heritage does feel about as close as you can get in that regard. Honestly, from what I know about Dale, I feel like there's a chance that she's actually playing the long game right now. She's not actually concerned about Casimir's background. She just knows that he's going to watch this later, and she wants to insult him in order to try and start a fight between him and her daughter. I mean, she is certainly not doing actual research in this scene.
It's what I was afraid of. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I found this book, and I thought, uh-oh.
Goodness gracious, what a history.
What I love about that clip is that she's flipping through the book very quickly, but she's also still reacting to every page, suggesting that she's either a very fast reader or that she has managed to find a picture book about Nazi genealogy. Right now, I feel like some of you might be thinking that while everything I've discussed thus far is psychotic, it's not exactly trashy like I promised, and you're absolutely right. So far, I've only talked about Tinsley, and like I said, she's fairly removed from everything that happens on the show. It's not until you get to some of the secondary characters that most of the really despicable stuff happens.
I'm sorry, I do what I want, when I want, and if you don't like it, peace.
That charming gentleman right there is Paul Johnson Calderon, and after Tinsley and Dale, I'd say that he's probably the one driving most of the plot. Still, though he's definitely entertaining, it doesn't make a lot of sense why he would be one of the co-stars of Tinsley's show, and I think that the producers know that because they do everything they can to try and justify why he's there.
My name is Paul Johnson Calderon, but everyone calls me PJC. My first real relationship was Tinsley's brother-in-law.
Okay, he's Tinsley's ex-husband's brother's ex-boyfriend. So if they're anything like me, that means that they had one awkward conversation with each other once during Christmas while the family was in the other room. The show also tries to connect the two of them by having Tinsley do a voiceover about him, but I wouldn't say that it's very convincing. The way she phrases everything sounds very much like she had a lawyer go over it to make sure that she could not be connected to him by a court of law.
Paul is someone I see out at events all the time, and he's really good friends with my sister. He used to work for Vogue and is always written up in page 6 for his crazy nightlife.
And frankly, if that copy was drafted by a lawyer, that was very smart of Tinsley, because those antics she mentioned really sound more like crimes.
I'm just coming off of a huge Page 6 scandal where I was accused of lifting some girl's purse. There were surveillance footage, pictures of it.
All right, if there are pictures of it and surveillance footage, I don't think that's an accusation. It kind of just sounds like you did it. Although I guess to be fair, I don't think that PJC would deny that. If anything, he sounds kind of proud of it.
On the internet, the Village Voice compared me to Winona Ryder and Lindsay Lohan, and to be honest, that purse was like my Paris Hilton porno.
After Paul, I'd say that the next most important character is Paul's nemesis, a lovely young lass by the name of Jules Kirby.
Now, no, now.
Why are these people always throwing shit? Jules is Tinsley's sister's roommate, and I'm not sure, but I think she might be the worst person alive. I mean, I guess there are probably some dictators I don't know about that are doing bad shit, but even if that's the case, I'd say that Jules is still at least in the running.
My name's Jules Kirby, and I'm from Manhattan. My friends do tend not to be homosexuals, fat, or Jewish people, and black guys, and I only like white guys. I use the N-word sometimes, and I really think it should be okay to say.
What's insane about that clip isn't that she said what she said, although, for the record, Jesus Christ. But what's really fascinating to me is the fact that that was her introduction. The producers were like, okay, we have about a minute to show the audience what this character's all about, and that's what they went with. And to their credit, they nailed it, because those clips tell you everything you need to know about Jules. She is just the worst. My first thought rewatching this was that Jules was definitely at January 6th, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that she is way too lazy to storm the Capitol. As best as I can tell, her day consists of her sitting around making a mess, and then yelling at people for not cleaning up said mess.
Typically, I spend my morning in bed, like ordering in room service and going online on my laptop.
Hi, can I have the hotel manager, please?
Hi. You know, I'd hoped to wake up to maybe a little bit less of a disaster zone. I had to call 3 times today in order to have the room cleaned.
Okay, I'll try to find out what the problem is.
If she has a storyline, it's that she keeps getting progressively ruder to the staff at the hotel she lives in because she lives in a hotel for some reason. And then eventually she's kicked out.
Living with Jules was definitely very difficult. I was hoping that it would just be sort of a fun, lighthearted experience.
Obviously, it's like a recession going on. People should be, getting jobs, deserve it, not some idiot.
Okay, that is some of the most twisted rich person logic that I have ever heard in my life. Although I will give this to Jules. I am shocked that she knew what the recession was. When she's not berating people in the service industry, Jules is feuding with Paul.
Paul, I just don't get along with him, so he stole from me. Paul blatantly lied to me to my face about being my best friend because he stole from me.
How were the two of them ever best friends? He checks at least 2 of the boxes on the list of people Jules said she doesn't hang out with.
We talk about Jules Kirby. Jules whack-ass Kirby. When my relationship with my first love was unraveling, Jules Kirby made it end quicker than it should have. She was telling him lies about me, and you know what? I took her phone and I found out she was a friend.
She openly says the N-word. What could he have possibly found in her text that would have been so much worse than that it ended their friendship?
People need to know that you were arrested in the Hamptons, you burned your parents' house down, and you pretended to have cancer. Jules faked cancer because her parents had cut her off and she needed the money.
Oh. Okay, yeah, that actually does, that makes a lot of sense. Paul rattles that list off so casually that we never really get to reflect on just how insane it is. Like I feel like they really gloss over the arson of it all, which is unfortunate because I want to know way more about that. What was it sexually motivated or? Later that night, the two of them cross paths at an AIDS benefit, which feels like an odd place for Jules to be because I'm not sure how passionate she is about the cause.
Alright, well, I just feel sick when I see him.
Still going on though? I mean, it was a while ago that happened.
Yeah, he talks crap. I mean, you saw how he just does. He's always like, ew. And I'm like, how am I gross? And he's obviously going to this benefit because he's got to benefit from some way. Maybe he's a victim, like an AIDS victim. I don't know.
When that's over, Jules follows Paul to an after party that he's paying for with money his mom gave him to use as a down payment on an apartment. And he's not happy to see her there, so he decides to take action in a way that only a spoiled rich asshole can.
Where is she? I'll kick her ass. Things got nuts. Yo, I will kick that bitch's ass. Watch me. I took like my Jameson on the rocks and I just chucked it. 2 inches before it hit Jules's face, she moves out of the way, and it went right in Alex's eye, and I was mortified.
And yeah, that's how we got to that clip I showed you earlier of Alex getting a drink thrown on her. So, yeah, as you can see, she really does not contribute to the plot. She's kind of just there. Also, I've gotten alcohol in my eyes before, so I do know that it hurts, but even still, I feel like she's being a wee bit dramatic here. When you have a show with both Jules and Paul in the cast, you'd think that at least one of them would be the antagonist, but weirdly, I think that's actually the final character I'm going to discuss today.
Our premiere issue is going to sizzle. It's going to offend people. My name is Devorah Rose. I'm the editor-in-chief of Social Life magazine. A lot of people consider me the sexy social.
No, they don't. I don't know what the sexy social even means, but I feel very confident that nobody has ever called her that. Which is not to say anything of her appearance. She's clearly beautiful. It just seems to be a running theme with these socialites. They like to claim that they have nicknames that are very obviously fake. Like Paul did it too.
My nickname in New York is the King of the Bow Ties.
And with Devorah especially, it feels very clear that this is not a thing that anyone calls her, both because she very much seems like the sort of person who would make up a nickname for herself, and because in the next scene, the Chiron has her listed as the sultry social. So, but yeah, that's Devorah Rose, and like she said, she's the editor-in-chief of Social Life magazine, which is apparently a thing. It can be very hard to tell sometimes on these shows what's an actual business and what's a vanity project being funded by someone rich the person knows, but based on her offices, it must be making some money. Or I guess she just might know someone very rich.
And my offices right now are offensive. They're so gorgeous.
Come on.
Seriously, we need to talk about business.
Oh, okay, good. That clears it up. You can tell someone is a legitimate businesswoman when they say, we need to talk about business. I will give Devorah this. She definitely had some notoriety. Outside of Tinsley, she was the only person I had heard of going into this show, and that's because she used to pop up on Bravo occasionally. She was on a couple of episodes of Real Housewives doing a spread on Bethany Frankel, and more notably, she was a regular on this show called NYC Prep, where she kind of just hung around with a bunch of 16-year-olds. It was actually very weird looking back on it, but even still, that show is fun. I recommend it. Devorah is playing with the grown-ups on High Society, though. She is out for blood. She says that she and Tinsley used to be besties, but now Tinsley doesn't give her the time of day.
Tinsley and I used to text all the time. We would email. If I felt depressed about something, I would confide in her. And then suddenly she disappeared, and I don't know why. And I feel like I really empowered her, and she turned her back on me. And you know what? I don't let people use me.
Devorah also seems to be under the impression that her journalism skills are what made Tinsley who she is.
I helped build Tinsley Mortimer into who she is today. I put her on the cover of my magazine. I completely restyled her hair, and she turned her back on me when she forgot everything I had done for her.
On paper, it feels very funny to try and take credit for someone's success by claiming that you helped them pick a hairstyle, but I've actually heard Tinsley talk about this before, and it kind of sounds like that is how she rose through the ranks. She started styling her hair different, and that made photographers notice her more, which I guess then made her famous. The social world is really dumb, is my point. Like I said, I think that Devorah is probably the antagonist of the show, and the reason I say that is because she's the only one who fights with Tinsley. And some of you may hear that and think, but Willie, I thought you said that Tinsley doesn't really interact with the cast, and yeah. Yeah, that's true. Devorah fights with Tinsley, but Tinsley doesn't really fight with Devorah. Despite Devorah's claims that they were once besties, it very much seems like Tinsley doesn't really know who she is.
I don't know Devorah very well. She did write a very lovely article about me 2 years ago for her Social Life magazine. I don't want to be mean about her or anything, but she's not one of my friends.
Someone is lying here, and I'm not going to speculate as to who it is, but I will say that if it is Tinsley, then she is a much better liar than Devorah. Still, Devorah is obviously hurt by this, so she decides to confront Tinsley at the opening night of the Metropolitan Opera House. And Tinsley responds by, again, not really seeming to know who Devorah is.
Hi, baby. Hi. It's been a very, very long time. That was awkward. She didn't even stop to talk.
She seemed kind of stoic as she walked by, very cold.
Okay, now I'm kind of inclined to believe Devorah, because Tinsley really acts like she has no clue who she is, and like, they are currently on the same television show together. She must have at least seen her name on a call sheet or something. Still, whatever the case may be, Devorah does not take that polite acknowledgement lying down. A lot of what she does next is basically just her going scorched earth on Tinsley. She does a lot of red carpet interviews where she says shit like this.
Tinsley and I at one point were very close, and then last night I saw her at the opera, and she turned her back towards me like a million times. She's no longer my friend.
Okay.
I am pissed. I'm on a mission. Everyone needs to be informed that Tinsley is no longer who she once pretended to be. She used to be a Park Avenue princess, now she lives in Chelsea. You know, she's dating this prince, where the heck is his crown? I'm gonna give Tinsley a wake-up call, and you know what? I am ready to take Tinsley down. We are no longer speaking, and the war is on.
And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of this does make Devorah seem a little bit crazed, but here's the thing. Even if she is the one lying and this is all being done for clout, she's still far from the least likable person on this show. And that's weird because it very much seems like we're not supposed to like her. Like I said, she feels like the show's ultimate antagonist to the point that the final episode is more or less centered around her downfall. Basically what happens is that Devorah tries to travel internationally to do a bikini photo shoot, and she ends up getting stalled in customs after she gives them a passport that doesn't match up with their records. And that's when it comes out that Devorah Rose isn't her real name at all. Her real name is Deborah. This information makes its way through the blogs, and the rest of the cast revels in her humiliation.
OMG, look at what we found on Gawker.
Read it.
According to sources, Devorah went to Teterboro Airport to board a private plane for a photo shoot in the Virgin Islands, but was stopped at customs because the name she was trying to use to board the aircraft wasn't her real name.
What?
Which is Deborah Denise Trachtenberg.
That's her name?
Which is like other side of the tracks. They wouldn't let anyone go through because she wouldn't admit her real name.
Who uses a fake name?
I love how she goes around like pretending to be this like international socialite. She jet sets so much she should know that you have to use your real name to get on a plane.
I feel like that clip is the show telling us exactly why we're not supposed to like her. She's an interloper. Everyone else was born into this life, but Devorah had to work her way there, and that's a bad thing, apparently.
Devorah Rose is what you would call a total trollop. She is the kind of girl who comes from nowhere, and yet she's somehow wormed her way into this New York scene that we all live in.
The show goes to great lengths to try and paint the New York social world as the sacred corner of society. Only a special few are lucky enough to actually be a part of it, and everyone else wishes that they were. I think that on some level, the show thinks that we as viewers want to be the characters on this show, and that feels weird to me. Because these people are absolute trash. And that's not because they're terrible people. I mean, a lot of them are, but frankly, I just think their lives seem boring. As best as I can tell, all they do all day is sit around hoping that a bunch of other people living in the same 1 mile radius as them care about who they are. They've been made to feel like this weird sphere they inhabit is the only thing that matters because that's the only thing they've ever bothered to know. And I'm not gonna lie, it does irk me, but like, not because of elitism or anything like that, just because, I don't know, they get to believe it. Society has propped up these people's stupid, vapid lives to such a degree that they get to walk around thinking that they're the absolute shit.
I am Paul Johnson Alderon, and like you think I'm using you? What am I using you for? Where's the climb when you're already at the top?
And for as much as that makes me want to scream sometimes, I also think that might be one of the reasons why I like shows like this, because I do find these people's ability to be so deeply obsessed with themselves weirdly motivational. And again, it's not because I want to be them, because kill me. It's more like I don't want to let them win. Why should I have to walk around feeling terrible about myself all the time when these assholes get to walk around saying shit like this?
I think people are jealous of me because I'm smart and I'm pretty.
Loving myself can be really hard sometimes, but Something that has always come naturally to me is being spiteful towards people who suck. Honestly, after food and water, I think that it's the thing that fuels my body the most. I feel like it's probably not the most mentally healthy form of self-esteem, but frankly, it does work for me, and maybe it'll work for some of you guys watching too. Whenever I feel the urge to get down on myself, and believe me, it happens a lot, it's nice to take a moment to stop and think that maybe I'm not the worst. Because that's Jules. But yeah, that's my video. Please like and subscribe and share and comment. And actually, I think that's the whole list, but actually do that. I'm not just saying that to speak. It does help the channel out. If you guys need a comment prompt, then I actually do have one this time. Tell me what you want to see me do for my next video, and if there's an answer that gets a lot of likes and rises to the top, then I'll do it. So long as it's not talking about Velocipaster, I get that a lot, and I don't want to do that because it's like, as best I can tell, it's already a comedy, so I don't want to make jokes about something that's meant to be funny. But anything other than that, I will do. Sorry to you Velocipaster fans out there. Also, if you're new here, go back and check out my old videos. They range a great deal of topics, but they're kind of all just the same. It's just me talking in a voice that's very off-putting. But if you like this, you'll like them, so go check it out, and that also helps my channel grow. And if you have a couple of extra dollars and you want to support my channel while it's still growing, you can do that by donating to my Patreon. Shut up, phone. Or you can super thanks me, which, by the way, I have some super thanks to super thanks back. So thank you to Laura Chow 8150, Lori Wild 3977, B Bureau 12, Hannah J Snow, Toxic Soup, Mabbity Babbity, that one's fun to say, Mabbity Babbity, and I Am Probably Wrong. You're doing God's work. But yeah, that's my video. Thank you. Goodbye. Just kidding, that's not the end of the video. I still have the part where I pose for a thumbnail while my patron's names scroll down the screen. And for this one, so the past two videos that I've done that have gotten more views than normal have both had the same pose where it's just me kind of going like this, like, so I'm not going to change that, but maybe I'll make my, like, what did you say, Jules? Like, what does my hair look like? I feel like I should start doing my hair before these. I hate to say it, but appearance matters. Not really, but like for thumbnails, it does. I can tell you, if I look like better in my thumbnail, it gets more views. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I don't know, traditional beauty standards, man. See, that's not like, so I need to figure out a way to be shocked while tilting my head, like, what do I look like? My eyes suck. This isn't interesting. I'm going to end it there because I'm probably just going to use one of... Maybe one more like. Yeah, I don't know. This wasn't a good thumbnail segment. I apologize, but thank you for watching.